When I was growing up, my mom used to call Psalm 91:1 the 911 verse. She would tell me when I was having big feelings, which trust me, I have them all the time, that I should read Psalm 91:1. It says this: whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. There's something about that idea of, okay, I've got big feelings. I've got some concerns about the future or about the present or about the past. I've got concerns about my family or my finances, or there's all kinds of things that can cause us to have big feelings. But when you read that verse, it's like, whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High, like what kind of shelter does the Most High cast over me? And what kind of protection does that shelter provide for me? When I dwell underneath that shelter, then I can rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I think God is really wanting us to understand the idea of rest. And I haven't always liked rest, because sometimes I think of rest like a timeout, and I don't like to be timed out. But I don't think that's what rest was designed to be. In fact, I can remember watching my son Aiden's basketball game one time when I was thinking about rest. I had been studying it earlier that day. And I was watching Aiden's game, and I was realizing at basketball, you have like quarter breaks and halftime breaks and timeouts, and you have sub outs. Because if somebody would just play that whole time, by the time they got to the end of that game, they'd be like worn out. They would be playing like sloppy, like really messy. But instead, God says, if you rest in me, you know what I'm going to give you? I'm going to give you a deep breath. I'm going to actually give you the chance to get your bearings, to understand what you're anchored on, to remember who you belong to. And all of a sudden, when all that clicked in my brain, I'm like, wow, rest actually, it's not a timeout. It's a weapon. It's a tool I can use against an enemy that wants to destroy us. So when you feel yourself with all the anxieties and concerns and pressures of the day or the world pressing down on you, run to the shelter of the Most High and rest under the shadow of that Almighty.